Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Virtual Fall Art Show. My name is Paul Pelloni with the City of Beverly Hills, and we have an amazing discussion coming up now with the incredible photographer, Marshall Vanderhoof.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. We're very excited for this one. And if you want to give us a little background about your photography, how you got started, where that all kind of came about in your life.
Sure. So this goes back a long time at this point. So I became very interested in photography when I was really, really young. My grandmother or my great grandmother gave me a camera when I was heading off to camp for the first time. I was about 6 or 7, and it was so exciting to me when I came back from camp and got those negatives back and actually like saw these images that documented my time at camp. And I've really just been interested in photography as a medium since that time.
Very cool. And it's actually quite funny. I know you and I were kind of chatting before this interview, and I looked up a little bit about your background and in your bio, and I think it's so interesting that everybody's kind of all artists are kind of on a different path in life, and nobody takes the same path, even in general life. And you've had a pretty cool, unique path to get where you're at now. I know you spent some time in the Army. You actually looks like you have an accounting degree and a master's of business administration. You know, how did that all come about? I mean, here you are as this, fine art photographer. It's just a unique path. It's so amazing.
So yeah, I tell people, I've done just about every job out there, right? And so, for me, um, I grew up always being super passionate with photography. It was something I was super interested in. But as I got older, my parents, who are super supportive of my photography career, really also, talked about, other things. And I had a lot of interest in, just making sure and growing and going to college and those kinds of things. And um, spent some time in the military. I do come from a military family. So, that was something that was, kind of eye opening for me. It definitely shaped my life. And I used the GI Bill after I got out of the military to go to school. Accounting seemed like a great way to go because I got to learn how to count money. And then the MBA was one of those things that business, as an artist, it
Definitely.
really is a business, and it's really important to keep that in mind because you've got to be successful, you're running your own business. And so getting the MBA was probably one of the best decisions I made in my photography career. It's helped me navigate hard decisions that a lot of friends of mine have had a lot of hard times with and struggles with that are artists because they don't have that business background.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's just sitting here listening to that. It just makes perfect sense. It never hurts to have that background in pretty much anything you do, especially if you're going to be doing something on your own, like art. You actually live in somewhere, or you actually work out of someplace that's extremely famous in the city of Los Angeles. It's a really cool place. Pretty much anybody who's been in Los Angeles who drives down the 5 freeway sees this landmark. So, and we're looking at some of your photos right here that are all around Los Angeles. Let people know where you work out of.
First, yeah. So I'm at the Brewery Artist Loft, and I've been here for a little over 3 years. I found out about the Brewery Artist Lofts through my studio mate, who was a painter in San Diego, and she introduced me to someone that lived here, and uh, I was just amazed by this place, right? And it's really just one of those places that's hard to believe exists.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to be here. It's right in the heart of the city, and it's really, there's no shortage of collaboration. I've met so many great artists being here. And one of the things that I tell people, my photography is really influenced, I think, a lot by hanging out with a lot of people that are artists, but not necessarily photographers. Different types of mediums. I really appreciate everything that I've learned from other mediums, and I think it helps translate to other things. A great example is what's showing right now, like the lower
Yeah, let's talk
royal.
about these a little bit.
Yeah, so this is in Pasadena. It's about 15 minutes away from the brewery. These were shot on black and white film, and actually developed all of that here. And my studio is a dark room as well. So I have the capability of making it a complete dark room. So these were all processed silver gelatin prints in-house by hand, the old-fashioned way. Just compositionally and thinking about this series, about about how to make things cohesive, bodies of work cohesive. I would say there's a lot of painters that have really helped me with that. They've taught me a lot about putting portfolios together rather than going out and just taking photographs of things that
Mhm.
don't have anything that intertwine.
Actually, that's it's so interesting you bring that up. That all these other mediums have helped shape your photography. And I was actually, since you went into that brewery artist lofts, how have you seen your artwork kind of evolve? I'm sure it's probably taken off in a much more enhanced direction, being surrounded by pretty much art 24/7.
Definitely, it's a journey to me. So, and this is the journey that I'm on right now. Being here has definitely shifted the way that I approach photography. One of the big things is used to shoot a lot of beach themed things when I lived in San Diego. This is one of the San Diego classics. And that was something that I shot a lot of and I really appreciate, and I love the water and I gravitate to the water. Being at the brewery, that's not something that's super convenient for me to do anymore. So it's actually really forced me to think about and expand the types of things that I think about when it comes to fine art. And one of the things that I tell people is having a background in math with the accounting and the business background, but mostly the math. A lot of the things I shoot or take pictures of, there's a lot of math involved. I love the geometrical shapes of things, the way things work, thinking about perspective and how to draw lines around, leading lines into images and that kind of stuff. Being in the city, I've turned around and done things like the lower Arroyo bridges, and I've got some other things from around downtown LA, and some of the other stuff around LA is a lot more geometrical shape, architectural, how the lines flow.
Mhm.
It's been a very different journey for me that I've really been excited about. I remember one of the first art shows that I did. I had a gentleman come up to me, and he was a little bit older, and he came to me and he said, I love the fact that you bring these things to us so that we can see these things, because there's no way that I could go and see these things myself.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most motivating things to me to go, oh, I actually have people looking at my work and they're actually really processing it. It's important for me to actually produce something that's worthy of that.
Somebody like myself, I love photography. I could look at photography just forever, but if somebody who's never really gotten into it, real photography really hits all your senses. It takes you to that place. If you can't be there, the next best thing is just seeing an amazing photograph of it. We have a couple questions actually coming through from our audience. Do you use film for your color and your black and white photographies, or is that a little bit more expensive with the less film being around these days and a lot of stuff going more digital?
Oh, that's a great question. This is one of my favorite cameras,
Wow.
and it is an old Mamiya RB67, which is a film camera. So I do still shoot film. I actually am one of those rare people that shoot a little bit of everything. The Balboa series that you see that we passed by, one of the reasons why I added that in is because that series was actually shot with film, digital. There was 4 different cameras that I used. I really think of cameras as tools, and sometimes I need a hammer, sometimes I'm using a drill, sometimes I'm using a screwdriver.
With technology changing constantly, and especially in the photography world, and you see this whole entire digital age coming along, do you have some favorite equipment? What are you currently using? What's your kind of your go-to that you always have by your side in your bag at all times?
It changes so often, it's hard to say that I have a favorite. I do love being in the dark room. I can get lost in the dark room, so I would say that that's probably one of my favorites. I also I probably get more energized about going out and being on location
Mhm.
than I do about the equipment that I'm using. To me, when I'm standing there and I'm staring at this beautiful landscape, or I'm seeing this architectural gem that I'm trying to photograph, to me that's where the rush really comes in. I would say that I don't have a specific brand that I cling to or anything like that. One of the things that I would say is, even when I'm shooting digitally, a lot of the times I am shooting with vintage lenses. So I do actually have old lenses, even as far back as probably the 40s and 50s, that I still use even on a digital camera.
Very cool. And I know pretty soon. I think we're gonna get a little tour of your studio in a minute here. But I wanted to ask somebody getting involved in photography, someone that really wants to take that next step and is kind of a beginner. Now I'm thinking of the Marshall from years ago. What is something that you would tell your younger self then, or somebody who's just getting into photography? What is some of that just first piece of key advice that you think a beginner would love to know?
This is a great question. I get asked this question a lot, actually. There's a couple of things that I would tell someone. Don't spend too much money starting out on camera equipment. That's super important. In today's digital world, you can get a camera that does a good job for not a lot of money. There's cameras out there that you could have to mortgage your house for. You don't need to spend that kind of money to enjoy photography.
Mhm.
Spend more money on taking trips instead of gear. You can have the best camera in the world, but if it's sitting in your closet and you're not going anywhere, it's not benefiting you. The other thing that I would tell people is, this is something that I know we've kind of lost touch with in today's world because of the internet, but read as many books about photography as you can.
Any that you suggest off the top of your head, or?
There's some great books out there about photography. This is the 3 books that Ansel Adams wrote. These
Ansel.
have been out of print for a while. I highly recommend reading these for somebody that's starting out, because it's really just the basics. It's the how to frame, how to handle a camera, how to use light. Light is everything when it comes to photography, and it's so important. I really just recommend anything you can kind of get your hands on. Read about it, look at other people's images. Those are the important things. And with digital, the cool part about it is, even a cell phone or a big DSLR camera, the key thing is you know what you shot right away, so it helps you learn faster.
I know you want to give a little tour of your studio, which I think people at home would love to be able to see. How you're immersed in this, day in day out. So if
Yeah, so you guys are aware and can see. So this is my only window in my studio, but it's a nice big window, which helps me get the blackout curtain, which allows me to do the dark room in here. And we'll come around. And one of the things here, I had the light on so that you guys could see me really well, because the lighting's not great in here. This is my enlarger. This, it's kind of hard to see. I got to get back, but this is a table that I built that's a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So all of the All of the trays can fit on the table. So when I'm doing film, I can do that. And then over here is, where I store a lot of my prints. Then we get down to the computer area, which is all about the tech stuff. And then the nice thing about the brewery is that it's a live workspace. So the back part here, which is hard to see and gets really dark, is where I stay uh, in the back of the studio. And I feel very fortunate. I have enough room here to do anything from commercial product stuff to portraits to any of those kinds of things. I've shot other fun exploratory things here as well, with playing with splashing water and triggering with strobes, or just stuff that moves over time. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, it's such an amazing spot, such an amazing gift that, to be able to have that. It's just mind blowing what that, that whole entire community down there in the arts district of downtown is. So we're going to do a couple little rapid fire questions here, if you don't mind, just kind of the first thing that comes to your mind. So,
all right.
all right, first one, all the places you've been photographed, what's your favorite?
So this will get me into trouble because there's so many, but Zion National Park is probably one of my favorites.
Place you have not been yet, but are dying to go to photograph.
Oh man, the list is so long. I would say that Alaska is probably near the top of that list. If I had to do a part B to that, I really want to go spend more time up the coast
Okay.
of California and Oregon. And I would say the place, I guess I'll throw one extra in there. The place that I love going the most, if I'm getting out of the city, is the 395, the Eastern Sierras.
Favorite, what's your favorite type of photography? You a landscape, you a city, or you a night sky? What's your favorite? What do you find yourself shooting more of? And I know you said you started doing the beaches, now you're in LA.
A lot of my photography goes back to man versus nature.
Is there any photographers that are currently out there, past or present, that influenced you, or that you just love their work?
I really like John Sexton's work, and I like his work. I've been to his darkroom and studio before, and I really enjoyed going to the Weston's property and seeing the Weston's dark rooms and that kind of stuff. That was really good. As far as people that I actually follow are Thomas Mangelson and Peter Lick.
All right, looks like we got another one here. Preference: color over black and white, or vice versa?
I don't want to say it's an easy process because I don't know that it's easy, but it kind of comes easy to me. So with the Lower Arroyo bridges, they're concrete. There's not a lot of color. And so everything there is about tone and tone changes and how it shifts. So everything going from the blacks to the whites that you see and all the grays in the middle.
Mhm.
If that was done in color, you would lose that because you would have like a tinge of blue in the sky, and you'd have some green where stuff is growing and that kind of stuff. And that really distracts from the tones and the geometrical shapes that you see that's created with these beautiful bridges. So I think black and white eliminates that confusion, whereas when I'm doing a massive big sunset, most of the time I'm going to shoot that in color. I think it really just depends on what I'm shooting.
So not so much more of a preference, basically more of kind of the subject kind of
Yeah,
determines which way you're
yeah,
going to go.
yeah. So if people want to get a hold of me, they can go to my website and email me from there. They can also see more of my work there. I'm also on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I've included both of those, all of those here. I want to say thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We want to give you a huge thank you for being with us today, Marshall. Like I said, this is the conclusion. This session concludes our 2020 Fall Art Show.